Hello, everybody. It's the Scottish Rugby podcast brought to you by the Scottish Rugby blog. This is our Italy match preview. Johnny McGinty's just literally arrived by the skin of his teeth here.
My class is still going on. I just ducked out of it.
We should say, Johnny, this is going out to general public consumption. I can edit that bit out if you want.
That's fine. I'm sure I heard the important bits.
That's fine. Okay. We're also joined. We've got John Anderson with us. Hello, John.
Hi, guys.
And our very special guest, we've got Robbie Owen from Squidge Rugby. Hello, Robbie.
Hi. Right. How are we doing?
Very well, thank you, Robbie. Thank you for joining us. So it's Italy, Scotland. Shall we start with the Scotland squad and the two big omissions? I suppose the one is the enforced one of Duhan. Robbie, I'm interested in your take on this. How big a loss do you think Duhan will be to Scotland? Because our kind of conclusion on the pod in the last few weeks is he's not been having the greatest of tournaments so far.
I mean, he's the thing is, I think Duhan van der Merwe is a disproportionate loss against Italy of all the teams in the Six Nations, because they are the team most susceptible to I can't swear, can I? Nonsense tries. to tries where you kind of get there's one player slips off a tackle slightly and then someone does something ridiculous. Italy always concede those, whereas other teams scramble a bit. And Duhan van der Merwe, even though, as you say, he's had a kind of slightly more up and down tournament than perhaps he had last year in the autumn campaign before that, and especially Lions Store as well, he still has produced plenty of those moments. You look at that Stuart Hogg drop against France. You look at he had, again, a couple of moments against Wales, where even though he was losing the ball and he wasn't perhaps, as you say, at the standard we've come to expect from him lately, he still is producing those nonsense moments. And against Italy, that could be quite a loss if you've lost 2 or 3 line breaks out of nowhere a game.
Yeah, but I mean, Kyle Stain's come in, John, and that's... we've seen what Kyle Stain can do for Scotland in the past, and I guess there's a bit of versatility because he can shift to centre and there's injuries and.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to see Kyle Stain get a run again. Certainly his form has deserved it this season. I think what Stain brings, obviously, he doesn't have that absolute raw Johnny Bravo style power and can skittle people, but he has got that sevens experience. He's very defensively sound, so the counter to kind of Scotland conceding stupid tries this year. Certainly against France, we were taking the gun and pointing it straight at our own toes. So Stain will bring a kind of consistency there, and for me, Scotland will want to play very. They want to have a lot of the ball, and from kickoff, Stain is one of the best at retrieving kickoffs that I've seen in many a year. So that'll be a tactic that Scotland will try to use. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And if he ends up at 13, then it'll be disco time here, because who knows what will have happened to get him to 13.
Johnny, the big omission is Blair Kinghorn from the Scotland side. Now, I've thought very carefully about how I'm voting.
Choose your next words carefully, Cameron.
There is heavy speculation online that this is possibly down to COVID compliance, and you can get into Italy with a valid PCR, but as John found out earlier today, you then can walk around the streets of Italy, but you can't go in any buildings or do anything or even stay in a hotel or an airport, which may kind of suggest that the speculation online, there may be something to it, and this brings me on, is why are we in this position now? Because surely that we've known this is coming, right?
Yeah.
And Adam Hastings, for all, he's had his work-ons and stuff there. I don't see the value of the Kinghorn experiment. £3.50 entry in the Stag and the Kinghorn experiment. Then what's the point of that if we were always going to get to this point and Adam Hastings was always going to have to come in?
This is the game where, if we were serious about the experiment of Blair Kinghorn International 10, we would have been putting that experiment to the test. So surely they knew this was going to happen when they started that. I would think, I would hope, I really, really hope that Blair Kinghorn didn't turn up at Oriam last week and go, by the way, lads, haven't done my booster yet.
They might have been hoping against hope that the regulations in Italy, the way they've kind of changed, they might have been looking at, well, they might change more. So, kind of just hoping that would be something potentially that would kind of open up that.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly it is still
and again, it is all speculation, but I would have liked to think that by now, both where Scotland are as an international setup, the way we're progressing, not just on the field, but through our management and things, and the way we are with the stage we're at in the pandemic and the amount of time that we had to prepare for this, that this is something that they would have taken into account before now. And so it kind of makes me think, what was the point in Blair Kinghorn being the only 10 in the squad for the first 3 weeks of the tournament, if the game where we could conceivably have started him to see how it's gone, we knew all along he wasn't going to be able to play in? I don't know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, Italy, you would imagine, Robbie, that Italy are going to be less happy having Adam Hastings coming off the bench than they would be with Blair Kinghorn, given, I mean, for all, again, he's very early in his start as a 10. I should caveat that before I get people on social media telling me that he's the chosen one. But Hastings does offer maybe a bit more structure from the bench than Kinghorn has in the last couple of outings.
Yeah, I think Kinghorn's really working for Edinburgh at 10, but that's down to how Edinburgh play, and it hasn't really worked for Scotland so far. And I think there's far more onus on the 10 as a decision maker and as a kind of, rather than like a membrane as it kind of is for Edinburgh, where he's kind of like he's making the machine run rather than like turning it on and doing all the fiddling and like turning the cogs and everything, as kind of Finn Russell's expected a lot of the time. And we've seen a lot in those couple of games when he's come on of Kinghorn calling things to himself before they're ready, or, throwing bad passes and things not quite clicking. And then obviously, the moment he slots into fullback, he creates a try for Van der Merwe and looks great. So whereas, I think Hastings doesn't quite have that problem just because he's very used to the position. He's very patient. He's far more patient as a 10 than Russell is perhaps, and is far happier to just let the scrum half kind of run things, and then he'll wait for a moment. In a way, Russell kind of likes to be involved an awful lot. And again, that might be it gives you two very different approaches. I think they want from Kinghorn, but he isn't quite ready yet. Or, if he does become ready, I don't think he's quite there yet as an international 10.
John, Finn's got his comfort blanket back at 12.
He does. Watch as Finn gets man of the match, right? And I will stand on top of that hill and shout, "I told you so!" at all the no. It's great to see Johnson back. I know there was people have been kind of questioning that decision because again Johnson had a fairly shocking match alongside a number of Glasgow Warriors down in Wales. So there's something to be said that people were kind of saying, it's a perfect game for Tuipulotu to come in at 12. I just think that working on that, for me, with Cam Redpath injured, it's Russell, Johnson, Harris. That's your 10, 12, 13. That's what we go at the World Cup with. So the only change for me, Redpath could maybe slide in there if he manages to get injury free, but here we are, he's out again. So Johnson's the 12, and I know people were saying before the Six Nations, is Johnson finished for Scotland? And I'm just like, that's absolute nonsense. It's by far and away our best 12. So no, I think it's a really sensible decision to bring him back, and we'll see how he goes. But Russell will be man of the match this weekend. That's
usually a safe bet.
Yeah.
Johnny, the in the forwards then, I mean, there's not much kind of massively changed, although we have got Dodge, the dream back row of Dodge,
we do.
Ferguson and Watson. I like the fact that Hamish Watson has obviously said he gets a 6 shirt because you will claw the Scotland 7 shirt out of my cold, dead hands.
He's going to be really shocked when he finds out that we're going South Africa style and swapping them over.
Do you think there was definitely a discussion around like Like, I'm older than you, therefore.
Oh, there wasn't a discussion. They didn't have a discussion. There was a look, maybe.
Just a raised eyebrow, and that was it.
Yeah, that was enough.
But it's a strong back row, Johnny. I mean, it's exciting. I've always been an advocate of the 2 open sides for Scotland because I think it suits the game plan well. I mean, and Jamie Ritchie kind of does that role really, really effectively as a kind of somewhere between a 6 and a 7, a 6.5, I guess. More of a 6.7, maybe more of a 6.75, I guess.
I think it's really exciting. Seeing them both together will be really interesting. Hopefully, it can deal with some of Scotland's ball retention problems because they are both rapid, and they'll get to a lot of breakdowns. That's been a problem the last couple of games, particularly for Doohan. So I feel a bit sorry for him that he's now not playing. But yeah, hopefully they can get to shore that up a little bit, and be interested to see them going after Italy's possession as well, because Darge was fearsome last week. So him and Mish together should be pretty interesting. I think Hamish Watson probably looked at Rory Darge last week and thought, I can still do that, and I better prove now that I can still do it. So seeing the 2 of them doing it together tomorrow should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm interested, Rob, while you're here. There's the kind of Matt Ferguson versus Bradbury debate rumbles on in Scotland, and I suppose it's nice to have a debate rather than just we don't have any number 8s, which we had for the last few years. What's your take on this? Because I think that the consensus on the Glasgow side of the podcast is that Ferguson offers maybe a lot more than Bradbury does, although Bradbury's in very good form. So would you say that kind of from what you've seen, Bradbury is kind of Scotland's first choice?
Yeah, I think there's also something with how well Matt Ferguson played in last year's Six Nations really flew under the radar. I don't think many people talked about it. It kind of got lost, and he should have been. I think, injury and everything, but he could have been in Lions contention if he'd stayed fit the whole time, and certainly should have been in the conversations being had around it. And I think in a lot of ways, like, it is his shirt to lose, and he has played very well. He's got how well he played against England in particular. That Bradbury's kind of got at some point he will have a chance to wrestle a shirt off him, in the way sort of Darge did to take that 6 shirt last week. But Ferguson has such a high work rate, and he does the genuinely kind of, everyone talks about the unseen work and so on. But I think a lot of the time we're now trained to keep an eye out for certain bits of that work, of the kind of turnovers and so on. But Matt Ferguson does an awful lot of just like blasting rucks and just constantly being there and running running sort of dummy lines and so on when no one's getting the ball, and doing a really good job of those. And he does an awful lot of genuinely unseen, sort of completely invisible jobs that allow Scotland to do stuff around them. And yeah, Bradbury can play very well and could easily do a job if he slots in, but I think it's very much Ferguson's shirt to lose.
Yeah.
The other thing when Matt's playing is, I think it kind of fires up Xander a little bit more as well. Like you saw in the Calcutta Cup game, if Matt Ferguson's there hitting rucks, then Xander's there hitting rucks as well. Like the one where Mish held up, what was it, 3 or 4 English players, and the very next thing that happened is that both Fergusons came flying through the rucks straight away. And I think like you do see a little bit more of that with Xander, but then the other thing that's kind of concerning is that if he sees people doing things to Matt that he doesn't like, then he tends to get a little bit more punchy as well. And he's got away with it so far, but that's going to run out at some point.
Yeah, the amazing flying Fergusons. That's what we should rename them. Anything else in the forwards, John, for you? I mean, Skinner is alongside Gilchrist at lock. I mean, that's fairly, given that Johnny Gray's out, that was always going to happen. Jamie Hodgson
back with the squads, but I mean, yeah, it's obviously just a wee bit too early. That seemed like a strange one. I thought Gray was meant to be out for the tournament, but he's kind of made his way back. Yeah, Jamie Hodgson, interesting, and I think it shows, like, we've talked about the depth we have, we've certainly come into this Six Nations talking about our depth, but actually it was a couple of injuries, and Javen Sebastian was getting picked, and it was a couple of injuries, and we're, calling up guys with very little experience like Jamie Hodgson. So we're not there depth-wise. It's certainly in the front five. There's a lot of work to be done there, and we'll need to be looking out for potentially the next few cabs off the rank, because it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, we don't want to be in a situation where we're having to call up the most beautiful man in rugby, TM Alan Dell.
Exactly.
He's on the bench tomorrow.
I know.
No, exactly.
Like I love them both, but I'm not massively comfortable with Alan Dell and WPL as our bench props, to be honest.
Kind of shows where Bergen's at as well, doesn't it? It shows how kind of out of favour he is, that Nell's being preferred to him.
Has there ever been a more kind of beautiful and ugly man scrumming down together at the same time in the same pack?
The Joneses, Adam and
Duncan.
Duncan, yeah. I mean, Adam Jones is a beautiful, beautiful man, and Duncan less so.
Leave Duncan alone. I didn't come here for Duncan Jones slander.
When I came on this today, I did not think that's where we were going with this.
They've also got the name thing. I remember once Fred and Brother fielding a front row of I'm going to try that again because it's very difficult to say. Dell, Nell, and Wells as a front row.
Nice.
I want that. I want more. I want John Wells to come onto the bench. I just want more very similar names playing in the same position.
Such a Welsh thing to say, though.
Yeah.
Yes, it's easy for you to do.
Yeah, at least you've got a syllables difference. It's entirely just Jones normally.
Let's talk about Italy. Now, we said, Robbie, on the podcast this week that maybe earlier in the Six Nations, we would have said, well, look, Italy aren't going to be targeting anybody because of where they stand. I think now, given Scotland's last two defeats, they probably will be targeting this game 100% as one that they will see as winnable. And there's been periods, particularly I think the England game, a couple of times there were a couple of drop balls away from kind of scoring a couple of pretty decent tries. Yeah,
and they led against France for a while and were right in that game for sort of an hour. And again, the Ireland game was kind of blown out of proportion by the fact they had 13 men, or the scoreboard. They did well to keep it to just 50 odd points. Yeah. I think it's a really good young Italy team, and they're in a weird place where, you look at the likes of Garbisi and Lammer and so on, and they've all got sort of 15, 20 caps. They're in that ballpark now. And they've all won just one game, just the game against Uruguay in the autumn. And when you're constantly just playing the best teams, I remember Warren Gatland talking about Wales needs to stop playing against teams that they just know they're going to beat and need to play the best teams to get better. And there's something in that. But if you're only ever playing, the likes of the Six Nations size, New Zealand and Australia and so on, then it gets to a point in which you never learn how to win as a skill, and you never know what it's like to win a game. And it becomes hard to go up and up and up tiers. Like if they'd beaten someone other than just one game against Uruguay, which they won by 7 points, then maybe you'd be looking at, could they go on to beat Scotland? And I know a lot of these players have won games with Benetton and Montpellier, other clubs around. But as a group, they've collectively, across the entire team, you're looking across them. I don't think there's a single player that's won a Six Nations match. And there is, I think Padovani is maybe the only player in that, and maybe Rutzer, who played in the World Cup, are sort of the only players who have won more than one game for their country. So it becomes I think they'll be far more competitive, and I think they really target this. And I think it's possible they could get a losing bonus point, but in terms of closing out the game, I do kind of worry about them.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, we were saying again, there is kind of shades of Scotland maybe 7-10 years ago when we had a new crop of players, and there was probably a time when it's not that we didn't know what it was like to win, but there was a period of time for Scotland where we would win against Italy and we might run the other teams close. So we've been there.
Yeah, and when you look at the time when sort of Finn Russell, Stuart Hogg, these players were coming through for Scotland, And I'm not saying that the players who are coming through for Italy are Finn Russell, but when they started coming through, we got to a point where we were like, these are really good players, but we don't yet have a good team. And this is what we were saying on the pod earlier in the week, is that like the finishing moments weren't there because that was what was developing. We had the players, we had the talent. We needed to develop them into a team, like Robbie says, into a team that knows how to win. And I think that's where Italy are just now. Italy have got some really, really good players, but they just haven't got the finishing moments set yet. And that's something I think that hopefully will, if they could keep this group together, that will start to come. But I don't think it's going to come this year.
Yeah.
What's going to happen now?
I mean, are you worried, John, about this weekend?
Look, this is where I do my classic thing of no, absolutely not. Absolutely. No, I'm not worried in the slightest about this weekend because, again, it's back to what I've said throughout this Six Nations. We were judging Scotland on a different level to what we have done in the past. This has always been a fixture had been a fixture for many, many years that had the potential to trip up Scotland. And we've done our best to make that the case a lot of times. We shouldn't be worried about this. We haven't lost Italy in quite some time. We should be going over there looking again for this statement performance where Scotland we've not experimented with the team. We've picked a strong side. This is a team that, 4 or 5 weeks ago we were saying could be potential champions. And yeah, it hasn't went that way. We've had a couple of poor performances. So they really need to kind of put that statement together now and go and smash Italy like every other team does. And then, then we go into the final weekend with maybe a bit more credit in the bank. But if it's a 7-point squeaky bum victory, that's a failure for Scotland.
Yeah. So I'll ask for everyone's predictions then for the weekend. John, you've said, I'm taking your predicting more than 7 points.
I genuinely think we should be, again, putting 40 points past Italy comfortably.
Okay. Johnny?
Scotland by somewhere between 15 and 20.
Yep. Robbie?
Yeah, I think Italy will be in it for about an hour, then fade off, kind of very old school style. And probably last 10 minutes, Scotland will end up winning sort of by 25 or something.
Yeah. I would say, but I'm going to go by 25, and I think it'll be quite squeaky-ish for a lot of the game because I think I've just got the feeling that like we said, I think there's something going on with Russell and Hogg at the minute, and I don't know. I just kind of expecting a bit of a nervy performance, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not whether they're able to relax against Italy.
I think that's the key. If the players, and you'll be able to tell a lot about what's going to happen just from that first kind of 5-10 minutes. If you see Scotland relax in that first 10 minutes, it's going to be a cricket score. If they don't, if it's tense, if we're making silly decisions, if we're taking 3 points when they're on offer, I think you could end up with a very squeaky game. We would play into Italy's game if we were doing that. So it will be interesting to see. If there's a wee wink and a smile, I think we're going to be fine. But yeah.
Good. John, where are you watching the match this weekend?
I am watching the match at home. I am going to be on my couch with many beer skis.
Very good. Robbie, what about you?
I'll be watching at my mum's. It's kind of during the Six Nations. I go back to my mum's each weekend and we watch it with the family.
It's nice. Yeah. Do enjoy. What about you, Johnny?
Undecided yet. We were out of COVID jail yesterday, so we might just stay home and watch it, which is what we were planning if we were still isolating, or we might go to the bowling club, because when we went to the bowling club for the England game, it was 2 pints of Guinness, a large red wine, and 2 juices for the kids for £10.60 and free pies at half time. So
free pies at half time.
Where was it? Can I make some notes?
with that on offer, we might drag ourselves out for the afternoon. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone's looking for somewhere to watch the Ireland game, then see where this is leading.
Excellent segue.
I thought this was where you were going, Cam.
we will be at Portobello Rugby Club on the 19th for Super Saturday. We'll be there doing some pre-match, mid-match, and post-match analysis live. And we'll have, hopefully, if we can get it working, we'll record the post-match analysis and put it out as a podcast. There's lots going on at Portobello Rugby Club that day. They're going to have a touch tournament. We might run some quizzes, some games. There's talk of a Portobello versus podcast boat race, which I am going to commentate on, and not take part on because I have an inability to sink pints.
I guarantee you're not as bad as me.
Well, we'll see. So there's
whoa,
lots.
whoa! I'm competitive here, right? Whoa! This is news.
There's a lot riding on you and Manson. That's all I'm going to say.
We'll be fine. Like scooping's good. We'll be fine.
We'll have to just kind of, you have to think tactically and maybe put you first, Johnny, and then they two can catch us up.
Yeah, you've got to have a quick anchor though. So maybe me, John, you, Craig.
Ian's there as well. I don't need to think about
Ian can scoop a pint. We'll be fine.
Aye, we'll be fine. So, if you want to see us fail at a boat race, and get that Portobello Rugby Club, I think it's free entry, and obviously it'll be very cheap pints because rugby clubs are always cheap for drink and stuff. So yes, that's that.
Should be good fun.
Thank you very much for joining us, Robbie.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, John and Johnny. Again, we'll be back on Wednesday with the main podcast, and then we'll have a wee preview of the Ireland game on Friday as normal. But for the moment, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from John, Johnny, and Robbie.
Cheers all.
Well.
Cheers. See you.